Podcasts to come. All right. We're tweeting.
All right, you ready to rock?
I am.
Well, I've already started it, so we're rocking. Okay.
Oh, well, we're on now.
Okay. Hey again, everybody, and welcome into Talking Tuscaloosa. Luke Robinson along with Jimmy Stein. As always, Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. Yourself? Hey, sorry, I just got a crazy work text question right when we went on right there. So I was just looking at it going, whoa. Oh,
yeah, that was very odd.
Yeah, I was like, well, I don't normally get that question. But here we go.
Okay. Well, I can live with that. It's been a while. It's been a minute since we've done it. Have we done this since the national? We've done this since the national championship.
We've done it since the national championship for sure. I mean, we've done it since the national championship, but we haven't done it like I think we've only done one since the national championship.
I think you're absolutely right about that. Now, so what we need to talk about then, two things. We can talk about how even Sybil thinks the Alabama basketball team has multiple identities and
True.
recruiting. People may not get my Sybil joke. Do you think they will?
I get it, but Sybil, you're right. I think anyone under the age of 35 might not get that. Wasn't there a multiple personality movie that was pretty popular last year called Split with James McAvoy? He was like a kidnapping girls
it was good, and they're actually coming out with a sequel. Well, it's not a sequel; it's the sequel to the sequel. Okay, Split is the sort of kind of sequel to Unbreakable, which was the oh my God, why am I blank? Bruce Willis movie where he gets hurt or he didn't get hurt, he's in a train wreck, right?
That sounds familiar.
And it turns out like he's invincible to everything except water, which is weird. I mean, because the earth is like 7% water and your body is like 75% water. So kind of weird. But that's always a theme in M. Night Shyamalan movies, because the Signs movie, remember the aliens hated water, which everybody thought, that's so stupid. Why are they coming here then? Like the earth is all 75%
water. We're very water. And we're water fans.
I mean, it'd be like Hunter Johnson moving to Auburn, Alabama. It makes no sense. I mean, if you don't like Auburn fans, don't move to Auburn. You know?
Right. No, I like it.
I don't know. People may not get my Hunter Johnson joke. I really don't know him that well. I don't really know him at all, but I didn't.
And I call him M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong.
What, you call Hunter Johnson that, or?
I call M. Night that. Do his friends call him that? Hey, it's M. Night. I mean, is it M? Do they call him M? Do they call him Night? What do his friends call him?
And it's kind of weird that he spells it just like day and night. But anyway, hold on. So anyway,
what are we talking about? Oh, the basketball team has a split personality, and then recruiting has apparently some split personality.
Well, let me go. I got to tell you about my sequel thing first. So anyway, you got Unbreakable, and then you had Split, and apparently the next movie, if you remember in Unbreakable, the villain was Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like the polar opposite. It's sort of like a Batman versus Joker thing, or Superman and Lex Luthor. Like they're kind of polar opposites, where Bruce Willis is invincible, and the villain named Mr. Glass was very vincible. I mean, he was very invincible. He was frail. He was in a wheelchair. He was black. Bruce Willis is white. He had a lot of hair. Bruce Willis has none. All that kind of stuff. And he kept saying, if I am like this, there must be an opposite of me. And, that was the whole thing. Well, in the next movie, which is going to be called Glass, Samuel L. Jackson is back, apparently, as the main villain. And the James McAvoy's character, who has split personalities, but they can all combine to be one beastly looking something or another, then he's going to be back. And Bruce Willis is supposed to fight him. It would be kind of cool. So
that's the movie. Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay, so Split, which has I thought James McAvoy isn't he in Split like kidnapping and raping women?
Yes, but what he does he has, I don't know how many personalities, I can't remember, but I mean it's at least like 13 or 14.
And he is Bruce, and he is Bruce Willis from this first movie. That I
No,
think
he
that's
was not in the first movie. He was not in the first movie.
a different character altogether.
This is a different. You didn't even know that there was a tie-in to the movies until until the very end of the movie, when somebody is. I think it's even the post credits when they're like. So there, the news. There's a news report in a cafe talking about the events of Split. Like, okay, these girls were kidnapped. Some of them were killed. It turns out this guy had multiple personalities. Yada yada yada. And the crux of the movie was he was a zookeeper. So it was kind of like had these beast-like qualities, yada yada yada. Well, he is in this deli. There's a TV news program on talking about the events of Split, what happened, and somebody says, "Hey, man, the world's gone crazy. What was it? Remember that guy that owned the comic book store that did all these terrorist acts?" I can remember his name. And Bruce Willis happens to be Mr. Glass. That's how you know the movies tie in together.
Hey, you know what? You think you know how when we go to movies like that and there's a bad guy like McAvoy and he's raping, he's killing, he's got these girls that are tied up in the basement and they're captives, and we as normal people sit there in the movie theater in our homes watching this and we're rooting for the girls to escape and get away, and that they catch the bad guy and put him in jail or kill him, right? That's what we do. Do you think that the small percentage of people out there who actually are kidnappers and rapists, they go to those movies and root for the other side? Are they watching the movie and going, "Damn it, I hope they don't get away. Don't get away." I mean, you know, they're kind of rooting for the bad guy because that's who they are. So they're like wanting the bad, and they're like, when the police show up and everybody there, the superheroes there to rescue him, they're all like, "Oh shit, man, this sucks."
I'm gonna be honest with you. For a minute there, I thought that's where you were going with this. Like, but no, I will say
I'm anti major felony.
Well, because I think a good villain is crucial to the story. I'm always pro villain getting away.
Oh, really?
I am. I mean, I think it's
maybe in a superhero movie, but what about when it's not superheroes? It's like real bad guys. You don't go to this Ted Bundy movie that's coming out that's got that Zach kid that's playing Bundy. Are you going to go and like root for Bundy to get away with it?
No, I'm not. I mean, look, that's a little different. But like in Split, I root for Darth Vader to get away. I mean, because Star Wars hadn't been the same since Darth Vader's been gone.
That's true. Darth Vader sort of is the movie.
And now we got some
Hannibal Lecter.
You got some hipster doofus swinging a lightsaber around. I don't want that.
Here's a confession. I have not seen any Star Wars since Revenge of the Jedi, which was like the third movie. Star Wars and then Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi. I haven't seen any Star Wars since then. None of them. So there's that.
I really, all right. I'm beginning to wonder what the hell it is you do at night. Are you?
I watch a lot of Huddle Tape.
Are you kidnapping people?
No, I'm rooting for the girls to get away. I'm rooting for the girls to get away.
So you can get
away, run. Okay, hold on one second. Hey,
okay.
This happened again. Okay.
Oh, let's all watch YouTube as Jimmy takes an office call.
Hold on. Okay.
This is captivating YouTube-ishness. Meanwhile, I guess I'll just sit here and ramble on. I don't even know don't even edit this out, Lawrence. This is perfect for what we are as a podcast. This is Talkin Tusc, which apparently now.
Well, that was compelling radio.
As we pick up the sound of Jimmy.
Oh gosh, that's a real live law firm at work there. You heard that?
Well, I want to get back to. I said what it is you do at night because you can't ever do this podcast at night.
I can't do the podcast at night. I watch a lot of sports and news.
Well, you hadn't seen any Star Wars, is this?
I hadn't seen any of the Star Wars. I watch movies. I watched The Big Sick this weekend.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's no Star Wars, but it's fantastic.
Is there a lightsaber at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, look, you got to go. So let's talk about.
Oh yeah, good point. I do have to. Well, I got to leave at like 4.
We talked about all this. We got because we were talking about split personalities of the basketball team. Can you imagine a season? Look, I think we're about where most of us thought we'd be record-wise. I don't think anybody thought we'd take this path to get there.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. For me, it's been, I thought it's great that you asked that question because I was literally giving that a lot of thought yesterday when I was thinking about I have to admit, it's like this. It's just like you said it. It's like I'm a little disappointed in how the season has played out, but I'm not necessarily disappointed in the one-loss record or where we are RPI-wise or our chances of getting into the tournament from here. So it's not like I'm disappointed at the bottom line. I think it's just how we've gotten here has been, I guess, jarring or disconcerting. But hey, my rant for the day, and gosh, I've told a lot of people this, but it's so true. I don't understand this about basketball fans. I think it goes back to the Fab Five. I think it literally goes back that far. And it goes back to the Fab Five and the one and done rule, which came well after the Fab Five. But there is this idea that basketball fans, particularly in the South, have that youth does not matter in basketball. It matters a lot in football. And I think almost everyone understands that in the SEC, if you had a team and 14 of the 22 starters were freshmen, I don't care if you're Nick Saban's Alabama, it's going to be a big struggle. You can't play with a lot of freshmen on the field, a majority freshmen on the field. You can't play football that way because experience and maturity and size and speed that you gain in college is crucial. But for some reason, fans of basketball, and particularly, like I said, in the South, I think, blow that off. They think that they don't care about the makeup of freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. They only look at the talent or their perceived talent level and the star, 5-star freshman or a 4-star or 3-star. They only look at the stars and not their age. And it's so absurd because it does matter. It does matter. Ask any coach in the country, regardless of the talent level. That's a different thing, different subject. But if you ask any coach in the country, just this question: do you have a better chance to win with 5 juniors or 5 freshmen? The answer is juniors. Now, of course, they're going to want to say, now, who are the freshmen? Because they're going to take Kentucky's freshmen over, let's say, LaSalle's juniors. But the point is, age really matters. The fact that it's basketball and not football, it doesn't mean that much. And Alabama's youth, the youth and lack of a veteran leader on the floor is, I think, the explanation for why the team goes up and down. Look, Avery Johnson does not forget how to coach and then remember again before the next game. That's not how the world works. It's just an up and down team, because most of our team are 18 to 19 years old. It's that simple. So that's my rant.
Now, okay, I agree with everything that you said. I agree with all of it.
Yay.
Okay. Having said that, I think now are we 15-8? I believe so. That's 23 games. We're 23 games in.
That's right.
And not only that, while I don't think it's an apt comparison between the youth movement in a football versus youth movement in basketball, because here's the thing: guys like Colin Sexton have already played. I played basketball up until I was about 38 years old. Like, not, in leagues and whatever, just, at least 3 or 4 times a week. Colin Sexton's already played more basketball than I have in my entire life. And on the
are you in a
circuit,
are you in a law firm too?
I'm getting a phone call.
Are you in a law firm too?
I'm in a law firm too.
Man,
I don't even know.
Well,
I don't even know how to cut it off.
Okay.
I'm gonna let it go to voicemail, but I don't even know I don't know how to make it stop. So I guess we just get to hear this. I don't know how long.
Fine. It's perfectly fine. But I hate that you were in the midst of what was going to be one of the great sports takes, a hot take, I think, as they call it. You're in the midst of a hot take when you were so rudely interrupted by the business world.
Well, let me go back to it then and see if it's still hot. It's still hot. All right. But so my point being that you, Colin Sexton has already played enough now where I don't know that you can say, the youth movement. First of all, and here's the thing, like Colin Sexton better already be about a mid-season junior because we're not going to have him next year. Now,
Correct.
The only one that I think can really play that card that plays a real significant minutes is Galen Smith. I think the rest of them, Herbert Jones, they've all played enough now where it's.
You mean they've played enough in terms of playing 23 games, or played enough? You mean in terms of year-round basketball between high school and AAU and all the stuff they do?
Both of them, but mainly because of the 23 games, and also because of the schedule we played. It's not like we've played a bad schedule. We've played some. We've gone up against the Mo Bambas of the world, and that what was that?
Yep. That freak at Arizona.
Yeah,
that freak at Arizona. Aiton, man, he was good. Aiton, something like that. Yeah, he's good. We played like
Whatever.
3 top 10. We've played 3 top 10 picks. That's crazy. Because Obama and the Arizona kid and Trey Young, they're all going to the top 10. They might go in the top 6. We played all 3 of them. That's crazy.
And I guess though, where your theory does hold, it's about dealing with the emotion. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
All right, I've got to take this. Hang on one second.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll entertain our audience while Luke is taking this call by once again reiterating that I'm right and Luke is wrong, and youth does matter. Actually, we played Mississippi State. This is how young our team is. We beat Florida in Gainesville. If we lose to Mississippi State, who's a lesser team with lesser talent, if we lose to Mississippi State tomorrow night, Tuesday night, I am not going to be surprised at all. I'm almost half expecting to lose because you shouldn't think that you can just go on the road and beat good SEC teams with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. So that's the essence of this young team. And I think we all by now get this team. And the bad news is they can play bad and lose to anyone. And the good news is when Alabama is firing on all cylinders, anyone, and by anyone, I mean anyone can be beaten. I truly believe that on some nights, this Alabama team can beat Duke. They can beat Villanova. They can beat Kentucky. They can beat Auburn at Auburn. This team is capable of those types of performances. They can also lose at home to probably Mississippi Valley State, and that's due to the youth. So that's just my feelings on the team. Look, I was entertaining the audience while you were conducting corporate business.
Keep at it. Hang on.
Okay. And then we'll dive into recruiting in about 5 minutes, which is super exciting because I keep up with this stuff 24/7, 365 days a year, and we're 48 hours from signing day here, and I have no freaking clue what's going to happen Wednesday. Anybody telling you they do have a clue is flat out lying, because I do have pretty decent recruiting sources, and trust me, no one knows what's going to happen. There are a handful of kids I feel pretty confident about, but for the most part, if someone asks me right now, okay, who's going to be the 8 that we sign on Wednesday, I can guess, but after each guess, I'm going to go, but I'm not sure of that. And it's not because Jimmy's not sure. I believe the situation is the University of Alabama coaching staff is not sure. There's a lot up in the air, and a lot to be determined. And, Malik Langham is a probable. I think Eddie Smith is sort of in the bag for Alabama. By the way, I'm super high on Eddie Smith. I know he's a 3-star, and some of you guys are like, well, that's all you need to know, and you make up your minds. But I am just as excited about Eddie Smith as I would be about any player that we sign on Wednesday, or the guys that we've already signed back in December. But I think Eddie Smith is probably in. I expect that we're going to take Jalen Moody, the inside linebacker from South Carolina, who, once again, a 3-star with an odd recruitment, and it's fair to not expect much from him. But I can say, as a run stuffer, as a guy against the run in the tackle box, I think this kid is elite. I was blown away when I pulled up his tape when I first heard a few weeks back that this is a guy that could conceivably end up in our class. I pulled up his huddle tape, and I admit, at first look, I was expecting to not like him, expecting to say we should circle back and take the kid from Thompson High School, who's probably going to sign with the Conference USA school, Jalen Ram. I was expecting to watch Jalen Moody's tape and say, I think the Ram kid from Thompson's better. But I watched the Moody tape, and I'm like, no. I think I want this Moody kid. He reminds me a lot of Nico Johnson, in the sense, if you guys remember, Nico was a really good player at Alabama, but was sort of a rundown only guy. There was even a season or two where we would play Nico on the rundowns and C.J. Mosley on the pass downs, because C.J. was so good at that. But Nico was better than C.J. against the run, at least for a point he was. And I think Jalen Moody it could be in that you could describe Jalen the same way. I think he might be an elite player against the run. Athletically, I agree. That's where there will be some questions about him. But I like Jalen Moody for a 3-star. I like Eddie Smith for a 3-star. I also feel pretty confident on Justin Ross, the in-state wide receiver from Central Phoenix City. I think Justin Ross to me, he's more of a possession guy than a big play guy. But heck, these possession guys are big. I mean, I'd compare him, and I mean this as a compliment. I think he's going to bring to the table sort of what Cam Sims has done the last 2 or 3 years. And you're like, yeah, Cam Sims didn't catch 800 yards worth of balls. Yeah, I get that. But Cam Sims also bought size. Cam Sims was a pretty good player on a 3rd and 6 and get to the sticks kind of a guy. He had a great catch radius, which makes him a great possession receiver. And maybe Justin proves a little more explosive than Sims did. But I like Justin Ross for that reason. Hopefully Alabama will add Jalen Waddle at wide receiver as sort of a playmaker to complement what Justin Ross brings as the possession guy. But outside of those guys, maybe Malik Langham I feel pretty good about, in-state defensive lineman from Huntsville.
What about Nicholas Petit-Frere?
Gosh, I spent a lot of the morning talking about him. Here's my thing about why I can't project NPF, as I like to call him that, because I'm sure I'm going to butcher his name. And I think you were as close as anybody. It's hard for me to. I just
got a text from him, and he said,
it's hard for me to get too optimistic about Nicholas Petit-Frere, because I don't think that there's ever been what I would call optimism from inside the program. I think it's everybody sort of shrugging. The good news is I think Florida and Ohio State and Notre Dame, who are that's the competition for him, they're shrugging as well. I think everyone recruiting him feels pretty good and no one feels optimistic, but I have no reason at all that I know of to say that I think Alabama's the favorite here. Now, it might be a coin flip between 4 schools and maybe Alabama wins the coin flip, but I'm only going to project kids to sign that I have some sort of reason. It's a 4-sided coin.
That'd be one hell of a coin.
It's a 4-sided coin. They're very rare. You get a 4-sided coin in your collection, dude, you got it made in the shade.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that a grifter would have.
It's pronounced Petit-Frere. Frere. I was trying to make Frere rhyme with grifter. That was just not going to happen. Damn it. That would have been funny. If Frere and grifter rhymed, that would have been really funny.
Well, is that translate to Nicholas' small brother? Is that what that translates to?
Holy moly.
Because he's not small.
Google, he is not small. He's also very smart. He's a smart kid, goes to a good school. That's why Ohio State and Notre Dame are, I'm
not being funny there. Like, yeah. Frere is brother in French, right?
You got me. I don't know. I don't know anything about French other than I know nothing about French other than the fries are pretty good. That's about all I got. I like the maid costumes. French maid costumes. Is that a thing? In French maid costumes, is that a thing? Is that rude? Is that stereotype? Is that some sort of French racist thing I just did there somehow? But
it is brother. I told you. I knew it was.
Look at that. So his name is Little Brother in France, and he's 6'7", 310 pounds. That's amazing. I don't feel good about it anyway.
What's French for irony?
Hey, you know what? Barton Simmons, and tell me if this is true. I've been busy with the law talking gig, as I stole from Lionel Hutz. I've been busy with the law talking gig today. But Luke, is it not true, if you know, that Barton Simmons from the 24/7 network whose work I respect greatly, by the way. Barton Simmons is one of the best, if not the best, evaluator of everyone out there among the recruiting analysts in the country, in my opinion. But did Barton Simmons tweet or post or something today that he thinks Surtain is going to choose between Miami and LSU, and that Tyson Campbell is solidly favoring Georgia over Alabama? Is this true? Did that happen?
I can look for it, but I have not heard that.
I believe that's true. I believe Barton Simmons has said this, and I hate not reporting it correctly here, but you know, we've got the law talking gig, and your corporate Iron Man making gig, and yeah, that would be bad if we lose out on Surtain and Campbell. I'm not saying it's bad, because people need to remember we signed 3 good defensive backs in December. All 3 of those guys, Savion Smith, Jalen Armour-Davis, and Josh Jobe in particular, are players. I mean, they're good. And then adding Eddie Smith, you know, I'd be excited about the 4 guys we're bringing in. But gosh, we got sort of excited down the stretch about Surtain and Campbell. Losing both would be a kick right to the petite frères.
Right to your small brothers. I'm looking for it on 24/7. Where the heck did you see this?
You might want to go to Barton Simmons. Can you pull up the Barton Simmons Twitter account? And again, I know I read it, but I might have read it on a message board, and sometimes things get lost in translation because those message boards can sometimes just be a conduit for evil.
Now, I see where he did his most overlooked Mr. Personality and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I have not seen like the other tweets have been.
Well, anyway, I would just say I've lost a little I think I read it on a message board that, hey, Barton Simmons just said that Surtain is between LSU and Miami, and Campbell's going to Georgia over Alabama. Now, Barton Simmons, by the way, and Barton's not a news reporter. He's more of an analyst. So I wouldn't tie up, you know, your home mortgage in those bets just because we heard it coming from Barton. I'm just saying I really respect Barton's work. He's not a kook. He's really good at his job, and I tend to trust things that come from him. But I'm reporting secondhand what I read somebody say on a message board, and sometimes that's extremely dangerous. So let's not put all of our stock in that report. But who would be surprised? I mean, I would think go back to October, November. The idea that we were getting Surtain or Campbell was a long shot even back then. So, hey, here's the thing in general, talking about corners. On the one hand, I've had a lot of fans ask me, I mean, like, how do we miss on corners? You would think we would be exceptional at corner because that's the position that Nick Saban himself coaches. Well, actually, that's the exact reason we don't get some corners, because for some kids' personality is not the type where they want to sign up for that. You know, like, for instance, some quarterbacks didn't want to play for Steve Spurrier because Spurrier was the quarterback coach and the head coach, and it just brought so much scrutiny and how much pressure the head coach puts on his guys. So I'm saying is Nick Saban coaching the corners is a draw for many kids, but it's not a draw for all kids. Hey, but if you got to get that, I'll just continue talking about I don't think we're going to get Quay Walker. I think he's going to go to Tennessee or Georgia or maybe Auburn. I don't think we're getting J.J. Peterson. I think that's Tennessee. I think we're not going to get Vernon Jackson. That's probably A&M. And the reason being it's different for all those kids. But I also don't think this is a situation where all of a sudden they had made one decision and are now deciding, you know, and now thinking of the other. I don't think that's a situation at all. I think the situation is more like this. I think the situation is at the time Quay Walker and Vernon Jackson committed to Alabama, their actual first choices had not given them committable offers. You got to remember, because of it's a fallout of the early signing day to some extent. That's my opinion, to some extent. But now there's pressure on these kids to commit earlier so they can hold their spot, that they have a spot. The nightmare for these kids is I take too long to make up my mind and I don't have a spot at any of the schools I like. So what many kids do, and it's hard to fault them, is I'm going to commit and secure my spot. And then I'm going to look around and decide what I really want to do to see if there's something else I like more than the place I committed to. And I think that's ultimately what happened with Quay and Vernon Jackson. They just committed to Alabama before all of their options were really known to them. I don't think it's just an outright rejection of Alabama. So much of it's like, hey, this is where I'd rather be. And, I just secured a spot, when I had to. J.J. Peterson, as we all know, coached by Rush Probst at Hoover. Jeremy Pruitt worked with Rush Probst at Hoover High School. Oh, by the way, J.J. Peterson, he's in Georgia. Rush Probst used to be at Hoover, where he was on the staff with Jeremy Pruitt. I think J.J. Peterson, even more so than most high school kids, is really tied to the hip to his head high school football coach. They have a really tight personal relationship. And in the end, Rush Probst, has a lot of great things to say about Jeremy Pruitt, which is completely understandable. And I'm not saying that Coach Probst controls the situation entirely. I'm just saying that Coach Probst's a big influence on this kid. Jeremy influences Coach Probst quite a bit. So since the day Jeremy Pruitt left Tuscaloosa for University of Tennessee, I mean, that day that I heard that this is happening, my immediate reaction to that was good for Jeremy. And B, well, J.J. Peterson's going to Tennessee. I mean, I think it's that simple, and that's apparently what's going to happen. I've already bragged on Jalen Moody a little earlier, and I'm excited about Moody. We talked about before, I think he's more of an early down run guy or a goal line short yardage inside linebacker, as opposed to an every down guy that's going to be good on third down and in passing situations. But I am excited about the potential he brings as a run stuffer, and I would go so far as to say he's elite in that area. So just because kids are 3 stars, don't read too much into that. I mean, it's true. If you just ask me straight up, Jimmy, do you want this 5-star or the 3-star? I'm going to tell you I want the 5-star every single time. Period. End of story. But it's always not that simple, and you have to look at each individual story. Here's another rant while Luke is conducting, obviously, high-level executive business and had to be away from his microphone. Another rant. I saw a post on a board the other day, and it reminded me to go off on this rant. I saw a guy, and I don't know who the guy was, I don't care, but I think it's a point that everybody needs to know. Say something along the lines of, he doesn't understand how academics can play at all into these stars. Whether kid's a 5-star and a 4-star or 3-star has nothing to do with academics, and these kids should be related or should be evaluated or rated solely with what they do on the field. And that when he hears academics, he thinks the recruiting industry just missed on a kid. Like, well, no, that's just the excuse they use, academics, when actually they just missed this kid, and this is their excuse for it. That is not how recruiting rankings and recruiting things work at all. The fact of the matter, and I know very well how the rankings do work, and I'm a fan of it, and I think there's a lot of science and logic to it. But think of this. Look, the high school fields in Alabama, I'll just use it because that's the example that we talk about here. The high school fields in Alabama are littered with excellent athletes who have no chance at all of playing college football because they're never going to have the grades. They're either kids that are going to have to go straight to junior college because that's their only football playing option, or in some cases, they have no interest in furthering their education at junior college. They're just playing high school football until they're told they can't play football anymore, and then they just drop out of school entirely and then go do whatever it is that they do. But the fact is, each year, there are, I would go so far as to say, a couple of dozen kids in Alabama or more who absolutely would be highly rated, talked about kids if they were on track to even come close to qualifying. But when there's an outstanding prospect and his GPA is 0.00, why on earth would the recruiting services spend time evaluating, ranking, talking about where the kid's going? And for all you guys that pay subscription fees, and they're worth it, to BOL or TI, who all do a fantastic job of covering recruiting, if I paid BOL $100 a year and most of the kids they were writing up were kids that went to junior college and weren't even signing with big programs on signing day, I'd be pissed. I want to read about the kids who are actually signing with colleges. And for that reason, that is how this happens. These guys that cover recruiting, they know the inside story with a lot of these guys. They know what's going on. And when they're told by the high school coach, by the kid's family, by college coaches, by people who, whatever they're told, that kid is never going to qualify, they just delete the kid or stop paying attention to him, because why on earth would you subscribe to an Alabama football recruiting site who all the time is telling you how great some kid is who's going to be very fortunate to figure out how to get into East Mississippi Community College? I mean, that's so, yes, academics play a huge role in the rankings, because as subscribers, we don't want to read or know about kids that just aren't going to matter on signing day. So take that into account. So let's say a kid like Marcel Darius, who there was no doubt, I was around for a lot of that stuff. The recruiting services were told unequivocally, well, this kid's fantastic, but he's not going to make it. Once Marcel made tremendous strides and then he could make it, then there was an evaluation, in some cases a week or two before signing day itself, and a lot of the rankings are set by then. I mean, I'm just saying that the idea that academics don't play into the rankings is absurd. Of course they play into the rankings, but it's just one question. It's not, well, tell me what your grade is and we might bump you up from a 3.4 to a 3.7 star. No, that has nothing. They're either going to qualify, they might qualify, or they are not. And if these recruiting analysts are told they're not going to qualify, then they're not evaluated. They're not evaluated, because why would you do that? So anyway, that's another one of my rants. So
Whoa,
I don't know.
That was long.
I don't know how much you listen. Well, it was a long one, but it's one I've been meaning to make for about 2 or 3 weeks, since I saw a post somewhere that I haven't talked about anywhere, but it set me off 3 weeks ago about somebody ripping on the recruiting analysts like they don't know what they're doing. Actually, most of them do. It's not rocket. It's not rocket science. You know, it's not. You know, picking out Julio Jones. Any of us can do that. But what I'm saying is that there is a bit of a science to it. Some of these guys are really good at it, and I'm a big fan of recruiting rankings and the 5-star system and the 4-star system, and I'm a fan of how all that works. But if you literally take it for gospel, you're doing yourself a disservice. No different. It's no different than the draft. I don't understand how people don't make that comparison. It's very similar. Just you might like your team's draft on draft night, but what do you really know? You don't. Recruiting's the same way. But anyway, it's signing day week.
Why is that?
Yeah, you got any recruiting questions? You got any recruiting questions? I think I talked about all of it, but fire them at me.
I was going to say, I think you talked about all of it. I've been looking for some
here's
Simmons thing.
Quarterback is interesting in the sense that Brevin White chose Princeton over Alabama. Hard to fault the kid there. And it seems to me that when Brevin White said no, I get the distinct impression, if you want to call it that Alabama's passing on signing a quarterback Wednesday altogether. I don't think that's necessarily by design, or maybe it's not the smartest thing to do. It's just sort of the position that Alabama was in. And if we're going to be critical on the show, I'll be fair and say I think it's fair to criticize how we handled quarterback recruiting this year. Though going in, there was going to be a degree of difficulty, and that's what happens when you have a sophomore starter and the backup that everybody in love with is a true freshman. It's going to be very difficult to bring in a blue chip guy, and Nick Saban tried very hard to do that. But I think not signing a quarterback and letting 2 or 3 guys in the state who are good end up elsewhere while Alabama strikes out, I think it's fair to say, yeah, we probably screwed that one up. So it happens. It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing.
I just subtweeted. I replied to your tweet. I don't know if I terminologies, but I just replied to your tweet that we're doing a podcast. I said this is literally our least organized podcast ever, and that's
a reason for everybody to listen.
Boys.
You know, the funny thing is, though, I went on 2 rants and I delivered basically an entire recruiting spiel about where the class sits. So, frankly, yeah, disorganized, but I yapped a lot. There was a lot of yapping. Hey, let's do we'll do a post-signing day rundown. We'll do that after Wednesday.
We're also going to do our superlatives that we do every year.
And we'll do the the superlatives are so fun. That's fun. That's fantastic. Listen, if they ever award us an Emmy, it will be for that show. And let's also, as soon as that's over, I say before spring practice gets fired up, we get Kyle O'Dell in here and get knee deep into this draft. You know, as many as, it's a crazy number, but I believe it to be true, 12 or 13 Alabama players will be drafted, which will be an all-time school record for a 7-round draft. There's a lot of draft stuff to talk about when we have a draft class that large. So we'll get Odell on here.
I'm down with it. Well, I know you got to run. I got to run too. So sorry, everybody. I'm sorry in advance for how shitty this production was.
We'll do better next time.
It's actually not in advance now that you've listened to all of it, but whatever.
We'll do better next time. We'll cuss more.
This was very poorly done.
Hey, we
I
might
don't know
be
what
cussing.
else.
Hey, when Surtain and Campbell and Bobby Brown, they all end up signing somewhere else, you're damn right we're going to be cussing a lot on that next show.
Hey, look, when we sign Chris Capps Jr. on Wednesday, we're all going to be pissed.
You will. You know
I got to use his name. He's going to find me and kill me.
I want to get, you know how I am. I want to give him a chance. Okay. Let's give him a chance.
You're like,
give him a
preferred
chance.
walk on. All right, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide. Okay.
All right, man. I'll see you.
All right, bye.